Hey, Mr. Incompetent. You really showed up.
At the company get-together at the headquarters, I ran into the department head, Kyle Wilson, who sneered at me with such sarcasm. To Kyle, it must have been baffling that someone as incompetent as me could show up at a corporate event. He laughed mockingly and turned his gaze to my wife standing next to me.
I'm shocked someone like you even managed to get married. Your wife seems just as incompetent as you.
Kyle spared no mercy, lashing out at my wife as well. Just as I was about to retort, my wife quietly stopped me and slowly turned towards Kyle. His face, previously indulgent, quickly paled. But it was too late for regrets. Having always thought himself superior, he was now set for a downfall. My name is James Foster. I turned 50 this year and have been with the company for about 20 years. Our company is a large corporation with several branches, and I work at the headquarters. After years of service in sales and administration, I've gained a wide range of experience and now find myself in a jack-of-all-trades role, involved in various operations. One day, out of the blue, I was summoned by the president. Her name is Irene Smith. At 45, she's an incredible woman managing this large company. When I went to the president's office, I was told about a transfer to another department.
James, I know this is sudden, but I need you to transfer to the Eastwood branch.
The Eastwood branch? I've heard they've been performing well recently.
Yes, there are such good rumors.
She answered, choosing her words carefully. The Eastwood branch is the second largest branch office, located in the neighboring state. It's well known for its significant improvements in performance over the past 2 years, but there's another rumor that's been circulating.
The turnover rate at that branch has increased. It's causing a staffing shortage.
Hearing this, I felt a bit anxious. A high turnover rate might indicate a harsh working environment. However, when ordered by the president, I had no choice but to comply. I understand. I'll take the position.
Thank you. I'm glad because you were the only person I could ask for this.
And so, I transferred to the Eastwood branch. What I encountered there was a workplace far worse than anything I could have imagined at headquarters. In a word, the workplace environment was terrible. From my first day after being assigned there, I was greeted by the shouting of superiors at the company.
Why can't you handle even this simple task? If you are useless, just disappear.
Amid the clearly exhausted expressions of the employees, only the department head, Kyle Wilson, was raising his voice. He's been the department head for the past 2 years. At 45 years old, he's a bit younger than me. His large, round body resembled a mascot, but his personality was far from cute. Indeed, as the president had said, the growth of this branch had been remarkable since he became the head. However, such fear was the undercurrent behind this growth. With him raising his voice like this all the time, it's no wonder many people want to leave. In fact, 2 employees had quit between the time my assignment was confirmed and my actual transfer a month later. Realizing the severity of the environment anew, I felt a pain in my stomach. Kyle, I apologize for interrupting your busy schedule. I've been assigned here from the headquarters starting today. My name is James Foster. I look forward to working with you.
James Foster. Oh, I heard something about that. I thought they would send someone more capable. They've sent an even older guy than I imagined.
Kyle laughed as he looked at me. I was irritated by his rude remarks, but I managed to smile back without showing it. What should I be responsible for here? I've been instructed by the president to take orders from you.
Oh, the president mentioned my name. That's good. It means the higher-ups are starting to recognize me?
Kyle said in a good mood, leaning back in his chair and pointing at me.
You'll be taking care of cleaning up the company's storage. The equipment and documents are a mess, and it's been a hassle.
Cleaning up, you mean, not sales or administrative work?
You look slow, man. Besides, you were transferred from the headquarters at your age. Right. You were discarded because you were incompetent.
Kyle scoffed at me. To be outright called incompetent by someone I just met, what a man. At this point, I was beyond angry. I was dismayed as a professional. The look on my face must have shown it, because Kyle furrowed his brow when he saw me.
What's with that look? Got a complaint?
No complaints.
The headquarters sure sent a troublesome person. Incompetent, yet you dare to make such a displeased face. If I were the president, I wouldn't just transfer you. I'd fire you. You're just waste.
His rough words straightened my spine. His loud voice resonated uncomfortably, as if crushing my insides. I apologize. I will gladly take care of the storage cleanup. By the way, where is my desk?
If all you're going to do is clean the storage, you don't need a desk. Think of it as starting from the bottom. Once you're done with that, I'll prepare a desk for you.
Kyle, losing interest, said just that before turning his back on me and starting to play with his phone. He gestured with his chin for me to go quickly, and I reluctantly headed to the warehouse. Located a bit away from the office, the inside of the warehouse was so cluttered with company items and documents that there was barely any space to step. Why do they treat the company's property so carelessly? Am I supposed to clean all this up by myself? This was going to be tough on my not-so-young body. From day one, I felt depressed. For about a week, I did nothing but organize the warehouse. Already understaffed, I was sent here, but is there really room to be doing this? It's tough carrying dust-covered cardboard boxes, and the sheer number makes it even harder. While working with labored breathing, Kyle came to check on me every hour.
Are you doing it right? What's this? You've barely made any progress. Hurry up and finish. We're paying you, so don't dawdle.
I'm sorry, but this is too much for one person to handle. Besides, isn't the office short on staff? I'd like to prioritize work there if possible.
Hey, are those the typical excuses of the incompetent? That must be why you couldn't do a proper job at the headquarters either?
Kyle glared at me and pushed me hard. I was tired, and I ended up sitting down hard on a stack of cardboard boxes.
Let me make this clear because you seem to be misunderstanding something. You're useless, incompetent. That's why you were discarded by the headquarters. First of all, you need to understand that.
Those words threw me, and my chest felt uncomfortably tight. With this kind of treatment, it's no wonder other employees wouldn't last long.
I finally became a head of department. But why am I cursed with such poor employees? They quit soon, defy me. And on top of that, I'm stuck with a useless old man.
Indeed, I have heard that the Eastwood branch has a high turnover rate.
That's right. They're all useless.
Kyle replied with an expression as if he did nothing wrong.
In this company, Results are everything. Perform well, and you'll get promoted like me. If you fail to meet your quotas, you're just stealing wages. Even a child understands that.
However, I think personal circumstances should be considered too. If health issues, family problems, or discomfort with tasks are factors, pursuing these issues and resolving them is also important, I believe.
Wow, the incompetent guy dumped by headquarters would think so optimistically?
He clapped his hands and laughed with a creepy smile as he pointed at me.
What good does it do to think about such useless people? It would bring down my own rating, and it would be better for the company to let them go. It's decluttering.
But all employees have families to protect.
Mr. Incompetent, if you keep dreaming like this, I might have to fire you.
He said it with a smile, but it sent a chill down my spine. However, a manager like him can't fire employees. That's why he has to make them want to quit. Have you always done it this way?
I don't mean to, but I've just been giving special attention to underperforming employees. It's a form of tough love.
Hearing this, I realized Kyle was even worse than the rumors. Indeed, the high turnover rate was his fault. He probably assigned such tasks and hurled unbearable insults at others, just like he did to me. I wonder what the remaining employees think about this.
By the way, I'm on a break right now, but you don't have breaks, so keep working even when we're talking. I can see you're trying to steal wages.
Kyle intimidated me, and I reluctantly got back to work. I had to keep cleaning up the warehouse, despite the pain in my back from overexertion.
Keep at it, and if you want to quit, just say so. There are plenty of others to take your place.
In such conditions, even I couldn't last long without breaking down mentally and physically. Yet, I clung on and endured 3 months of hellish days. 3 months after my transfer, I received a call from headquarters. It was an invitation to a social gathering. A few times a year, representatives from each branch are invited to share appreciation and future policies over a meal, and it seems that this month was the time for it. It seems Kyle was also invited, and he called me over.
It makes sense for me to be invited to the social gathering, but you being invited is quite out of place.
I'm genuinely honored to be invited.
Maybe the president will personally announce your firing. Since you've come here, you haven't achieved anything.
Not that I could achieve much. Kyle only had me organizing the warehouse. Probably, the reports to headquarters must label me as an incompetent who fails to meet quotas.
Lately, thanks to the pressure I've been putting on my employees, our sales have been growing nicely. Maybe the president will recognize me at this gathering.
As Kyle said, it's not uncommon for promotions to be announced at such gatherings. It wasn't unreasonable for him to dream of such things. But if the president were to witness this situation, she wouldn't approve. Our president isn't foolish enough to value someone who doesn't care for their employees.
That's right, James. You should endorse me to the president. You're from headquarters, so she might believe you.
You want me to support your promotion?
That's right. If you do, I'll forgive you for being a salary thief so far. It's a good deal for you, isn't it?
Kyle clapped his hands as if he had come up with a brilliant idea.
I'm making use of an incompetent like you. Be grateful, will you?
I was so dumbfounded, I could only respond mechanically.
But are you really going to the gathering, James?
Of course I am. It's an honor.
If I were in your shoes, I'd honestly find it hard to go.
Is that because I was transferred here? When I asked back, Kyle shook his head.
Being incompetent and going there would just make me look miserable compared to everyone else. Any sane person would decline. But you're really something.
He said this with utmost sarcasm and a straight face, leaving me speechless. I was getting tired of this dutiful conversation.
As expected of someone who's been a salary thief for 3 months. None of the employees who quit before were as stubborn as you.
Is that so? I'm ashamed.
Yeah, really shameful. If you ever feel like declining, just tell me. I'll make sure to report it our executives.
With those words, I was finally free from Kyle. It must have been the most wasteful time of these 3 months. I went back to the warehouse and resumed work. The organization task I had been continuously working on still seemed to have no end. The people who had quit before me probably saw the same scene. In this warehouse, along with documents and dust, I felt the frustrations of my predecessors linger. Everyone, just wait. I'll clean up that big mess for sure. With my morale faltering, I lifted another cardboard box. As the social gathering approached, I vowed in my heart to definitely hold Kyle accountable. A month had passed since the invitation to the social gathering, and the day finally arrived. Typically, transportation costs are covered by headquarters, so people invited from each branch usually come together. Kyle had told me to meet him on site.
Pay for your travel expenses out of your salary. I'm going ahead.
What? I hadn't heard about this. Usually, travel expenses are covered by headquarters, right?
Your share of the travel expenses is already used up. If you don't want to pay out of pocket, you don't have to come.
He seems to have used the travel expenses for 2 people to book his seat on the express train. I hurriedly bought myself a ticket for a later express train and headed to headquarters for the first time in 4 months. It was only a 4-month period, but emotionally, it felt like years. Even the slight changes in the cityscape refreshed my spirits. I arrived at the headquarters just in time for the start of the social gathering after catching a taxi from the station. After checking in, I called my wife. The gathering actually encouraged family accompaniment. The company, according to the president's philosophy, must also protect the employees' families. For me, stationed alone, seeing my wife was the most anticipated joy. I was so excited the night before that I had trouble sleeping. My wife was also running late, but she texted me that she would be there soon. While waiting for her at the entrance with a coffee, Kyle appeared. His face slightly flushed from alcohol.
Hey, Mr. Incompetent. You're really here.
His annoying taunt immediately dampened my spirits. Yes, I was invited, after all.
Then why are you standing out here? Let me guess. You're too embarrassed to go inside, right? Being the discarded one and all.
That's not it. I'm waiting for someone. As I said this, Kyle scoffed disbelievingly and laughed, then turned to head back inside. Just then, I spotted a woman rushing toward me. Even from a distance, I knew immediately it was my wife. Standing next to her in her neat suit, my crumpled suit became embarrassingly noticeable. It's been a while. Have you been okay?
Yes, we've kept in touch, so I wasn't too lonely. But haven't you lost some weight?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of physical work. My wife smoothed out the wrinkles in my suit and adjusted my tie. Kyle, having overheard our conversation, turned back and approached us again.
What's this? You were meeting a woman. And here I thought an old guy like you wouldn't be up to much. Did you find a mistress at the headquarters or something?
My wife, adjusting my tie, had her back to him. From my angle, I could see her eyebrows twitch in annoyance. Please stop that. This is my wife. It's not strange for her to be here since family members are also invited to the gathering.
It's surprising that an incompetent guy like you even has a wife. I just assumed you were a charmless middle-aged bachelor.
His voice, louder from the alcohol, carried over the laughter. While I was used to his taunts, the people from headquarters looked our way, visibly uneasy. The unwanted attention wasn't just because Kyle was being loud. Yet, in his drunken state, he seemed unaware of the stir he was causing.
I'm surprised someone like you could even get married. Your wife seems as incompetent as you are.
Please don't speak ill of my wife. I won't stay silent about it, even if you are my boss.
Ooh, scary. Normally you just obey orders quietly. But you act tough in front of your wife. I get it. You're usually miserable.
Kyle then checked his watch and began to psych himself up by lightly slapping his cheek.
All right. The president will be here soon. I need to get serious. I've got to brown nose as much as I can today to make a case for working at the headquarters.
That's when my wife, Irene, finally spoke up slowly.
Shouldn't you choose your words more carefully then?
What are you talking about? Keep quiet, outsider. You just came here for a free meal.
At that, Irene turned to face Kyle. The air seemed to freeze for a moment. And then, Kyle's face, which had been flushed, turned pale quickly.
I apologize for the late introduction. I am Irene Smith, his wife, and also the president. We have a lively employee here.
Oh my God, President. What do you mean by this?
Exactly what I said. James is my dear husband.
Kyle, now utterly silent and subdued, was stared down by the president. He shrank as if a snake had glared at him.
But both of your last names are different.
My wife hasn't changed her name due to work reasons. We have different last names. For an executive, changing your name means rewriting countless contracts, which is exhausting just to think about. But thanks to that, Kyle never suspected a thing.
I'd like to hear your explanation. Why do you belittle your employees to such an extent?
No, this is different. It may feel a bit extreme, but this is how we communicate. Right, James?
Kyle desperately looked to me for support, but there was no way I was going to defend him. No, I've told you many times I dislike it. Similar treatment has been given to other employees, and it's the reason for the high turnover rate.
Jesus, you're betraying me.
The sound of Kyle grinding his teeth seemed almost audible.
James, you've had a tough time. You don't need to act anymore.
Is that so? Yes, it's been quite long, indeed. Finally, I could face Kyle squarely without the weight on my shoulders. Your behavior has been reported to the president all along. It's futile to pretend now. Kyle, sweating profusely, could never have imagined this day would come. Now, everything he had built was beginning to crumble. In fact, I wasn't transferred to the Eastwood branch just because of a staffing shortage. The real purpose was to investigate the causes of the unusually high turnover rate. As an investigator, I was dispatched there. I had heard bad rumors about the department of head beforehand, but rumors tend to get embellished, and I wanted to see and judge for myself.
You act like a spy, sizing people up.
I didn't want to be called a spy by someone who had been insulting me since we first met. You seem to enjoy pushing employees you dislike to the sidelines and pressuring your employees.
That's nonsense. You shouldn't listen to this man. For the past 4 months, he has failed to meet his quotas even once. He's a failure.
That's because you only had James handling warehouse organization, isn't it? He didn't even have a desk. We have all the photos and audio recordings as data, so I believe we have credible information.
Just as the president said, Kyle's statements and actions had been secretly recorded. And I had been sending these as evidence to the president. I don't consider everything he said as abuse. Sometimes harsh words might be necessary, but there must always be a foundation of affection. It's because of love that such actions are called tough love. What Kyle did was just whipping. It was nothing more than an attack that only caused suffering.
Employees should be cherished. I am considering appropriate punishment for your actions that have gone against the company's philosophy. Be prepared.
Wait, please. I have one thing I want to explain.
Kyle, cornered, clung to the president.
Maybe I was too harsh on James. I admit that, and I'm reflecting on it. But I did not do that to other employees who left. Please believe me.
Kyle was desperate to reduce his punishment. He thought he could hide his mistreatment of others. I thought you would try to escape responsibility like this. We have already found evidence to the contrary.
Evidence? You shouldn't have had time for that.
It was in that warehouse you pushed me into. You did the same to other employees who left, didn't you? During an endless task of organizing the warehouse, I found a notebook. It was filled with various handwriting, detailing the abuse received from Kyle. Those pushed into that warehouse tried to leave some evidence. The content was almost the same as what happened to me, and it was filled like a communal diary. It's terrifying to think how many people suffered. I've already sent the diary left by the employees who quit to the president for review. The feelings of those we couldn't save have been properly communicated. You can't run away anymore.
I just wanted to succeed and get promoted to headquarters. I'll change my ways and go back to basics. Please, just don't fire me.
How could someone who has made so many quit have the cheek to talk like that? But the president smirked at Kyle's words.
Going back to basics, is it? There's no lie in your words, right?
Yes. From now on, I'll live honestly.
Then let's not fire you. Instead, we'll transfer you to a department that suits you. There, you can properly relearn the basics.
Thank you.
I looked down at Kyle, who kept thanking her repeatedly, with indescribable feelings. Thinking about those whose lives have been disrupted by this man makes it hard for me to sit still. Yet, I hadn't realized the president's true intention. The decision to transfer him instead of firing him wasn't out of mercy, but a real punishment. Later on, Kyle was transferred to a department far removed from the headquarters, located in a picturesque rural setting. The landscape, always filled with expansive potato fields as far as the eye can see, somehow brought peace to my mind. This area allowed for a large factory due to its ample land, and Kyle is currently working there. 6 months after his transfer, I went to inspect this department to see how he was doing. This factory, unlike the Eastwood branch, was solely focused on manufacturing, with most of the employees' jobs involving physical labor. For Kyle, who had become rather corpulent, it was the perfect environment. About 6 months ago, Kyle Wilson transferred here. Do you know where he is? I asked an employee, who then guided me to Kyle. The man waiting for me had significantly slimmed down, a frail version of his former self. Kyle, once quite plump, had become gaunt due to the past 6 months of work. You look unrecognizable. How's the job treating you?
You're James. Right.
Kyle, recognizing me, glared momentarily, but then his words faltered. I came to check on you while inspecting the factory.
Supervisors are busy, right? It's all your fault my body aches every day.
Indeed, as I approached, the smell of a medicated compress was stronger than that of sweat. His body seemed to be screaming from the unfamiliar physical labor.
Just because I put you in charge of a warehouse job doesn't mean you are going to put me through this poor environment. This is too much, no matter what.
The work here may be tough, but unlike me, it's not forced, and everyone does the same job. Also, you aren't being verbally abused by anyone here, are you? The department you were in before was in a worse environment than this. I counted strongly.
But I've reflected enough. Please, transfer me back to my old department. I can't fully utilize my strengths here. I could contribute much more to the company.
You're quite confident. Actually, the president mentioned something to me. I said, as Kyle seemed ready to lash out. The president said, based on my judgment, if you've truly reflected, then considering a transfer back to the Eastwood branch might be possible.
Wow. Then you'll tell the president right away. I'm reflecting, okay?
But there's one condition you need to meet before I can judge that. I told Kyle. That is, you don't ask to be sent back home.
What that means?
If you were truly reflecting, an apology would come first, but instead, you complained and begged to be sent back. Therefore, you'll continue working here for another 6 months. The president had given even such a man a chance. I honestly thought he could be fired, but part of her still wanted him to have a chance to come back.
Despite everything, he's still an employee, and I want to take care of him. It's my own selfish wish, but could you give him a chance?
You're kind, aren't you? Do the other employees agree?
I'll make sure to properly punish where it's due. Don't worry about that.
The punishment involved more than just this assignment. By the way, starting this month, we're providing a stipend to those you drove to resignation. It seems some of them suffered mental health issues or had to move, so it's kind of a compensation.
We should just forget about those weaklings who left. What's this kindness about? Be kind to me too.
By the way, that money will be deducted from your salary, so you might want to cut back on your spending starting next month.
What? You're deducting it from my salary. How much are you taking?
Kyle seemed ready to explode. I haven't been told the amount, but I think it's about $50,000 in total.
How merciless. I have a life to live too.
Those who you pushed out had their lives and families too. Consider it karma and accept it. It'll be interesting to see how long Kyle's deductions last. Just then, the factory clock chimed. It was a signal for work to resume.
I can't stand this. I don't want to work if I'm not getting paid. Please, I'll do anything to get help.
Kyle, whining, was grabbed by the foreman and dragged away in a daze. I wonder if he'll have reflected by the next time I visit. Thinking this, I left the factory. Ultimately, a month after my inspection, Kyle left the factory. The amount deducted was apparently more than he expected, but from what I saw, it was within reasonable limits. Rumor has it that, with few entertainments in the countryside, he spent his weekends gambling on machines and horse races, accumulating debt. Believing he couldn't repay it with his current earnings, he resigned to make a fresh start, but at his age in the late 40s, no company would take him. Rejected at every job application, he's now juggling part-time jobs just to get by. In the end, carrying the $50,000 compensation to the company and his own accrued debts, he's set for a life of hardship. Such a pity for a man who squandered his chance at redemption. As for me, I'm still working at the headquarters, right beside my wife, the president. Assisting others in this way suits my nature, so I'm content with my current life.
Sorry to burden you with the unpleasant tasks, but your support allows me to delegate important duties with peace of mind.
Being appreciated like this is all the motivation I need. Let me continue to support you by your side. Our relationship isn't one of looking down on each other just because it's between a president and an employee. We see each other as equals, beyond our positions. Naturally, building such relationships with other employees is my current goal. A company with strong connections like this is sure to survive. With this in mind, I'm motivated to keep striving today to make everyone's workplace a secure one.